anytime you still have trauma and you still have pain and you still have insecurity, it is going to flip-flop back between an overinflated sense of self and a worthless sense of self. And then it's only once you actually love yourself that you have neither. Because once you actually love yourself, you don't need to inflate yourself to compensate for how low you feel at other times. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the channel. My name is Anton Zachor, and this is the Anton Analysis. And this is my first intro ever for the Anton Analysis, and because of that, I'm just letting this be imperfect. And I think a lot of the time my perfectionism can get the best of me, and I can sometimes redo these intros 5 times. To be honest, this is the second time I've redone this intro, or the first time I've redone this intro. And yeah, just letting it be imperfect. And this will probably be imperfect too, but I don't think I'll redo this again. I think just the first time, there's just sometimes an anxiety, there's nerves in me. My voice can quiver, and it's just the perfectionism. It's the, the inner critic. And so I'm just realizing to, give myself and my content room to evolve instead of feeling like I have to get this perfect the first time. There's a big part of me that feels like I want to get it perfect the first time so that I can let go of the anxiety of the constant change and evolution. As much as that excites me, I love how my life and my creativity and my process is constantly evolving and growing. But there's also an anxiety of feeling like there's no core sense of stability, that there's no sense of like, okay, once I reach the summit of this mountain, I can just relax. When life is always changing, and when I'm always changing, when we're always changing, there's a feeling like I can never find just a point of relaxation. And I think, the solution I'm finding, and the potential solution I'm finding, is just to let the imperfection be the stability. There doesn't have to be stability. It's like, just let it be imperfect. I think the reaching for the stability is hoping that I can finally find a place where I'll be enough and I'll be perfect. And I don't have to change and I don't have to grow anymore. But really, it's just like, let it be imperfect, let myself make mistakes. And then once I let myself make mistakes, it's no longer stressful. I can just, it's no big deal if something is always changing, because it doesn't have to be great. It doesn't have to be perfect, right? But yeah, so this video is my reaction, my analysis on a recent interview with Jordan Peterson and Russell Brand. And this was really all about Russell's inspiring journey through his faith. I just find his journey fascinating, whether you agree with him, disagree with him, like him or hate him. He's had an interesting journey. First starting in Hollywood, being in one of my favorite movies, Forgetting Sarah Marshall. And then, get into the Greek and Arthur, and those were, I think, his big ones. And then after that, watching him get into communism, socialism, politics, and New Age. He's always had this spiritual journey. Even though now he's into Christianity, he's always been someone who's been searching for his faith. And he's been searching for what he believes in and what values he has. And after the communism and New Age aspect of his life, during the COVID times, he got into speaking to power. He got into, instead of right and left wing being better than right wing, it was in let's challenge the people that are making our life decisions for us, especially during the COVID time, right? And just speaking to power. And now it seems like he has went more into the right wing side of things. But then again, I think the challenge is that it's hard to be in the middle or moderate nowadays. I think even me, I consider myself politically moderate, but if you're on the left wing, whenever you view me as moderate, you put me on the right wing, right? Even though in many ways I have very strong, I don't like to say I have any left wing values or right wing values. I've just, issue by issue, I have my perspectives. I think it's very important to balance the health of the economy with human rights and making sure that everyone's taken care of. In an ideal world, I would want universal basic income, which is a very left kind of progressive value. But I also don't trust the government to be able to implement that, which is kind of a little bit more of a right wing. You know what I mean? It's complicated. These things are all over the place, right? And so I think in a lot of ways, I think Russell's more of a moderate, but I don't know. And then now getting into Christianity, which kind of like, again, puts them kind of on the right. But then again, I think just these binary standards of left wing and right wing, I think it just creates this culture war that has us yelling at each other and telling each other that we're right or wrong. When really he's into Christianity. Doesn't mean he's right wing or left wing. He probably still has a lot of, I don't even know. Again, like, it's complicated. I don't think there is progressive. I don't think there's a dichotomy of values. And I don't think all these values have to be mutually exclusive like they seem to be on the surface with right wing and left wing. I think you, like me, I think you can be like, how do we have a healthy economy? And at the same time, how do we make sure that we take care of each other? You know what I mean? Like, I don't think those things are mutually exclusive, even though one of those would be a right wing value on the surface and one would be a left wing value. So yeah, I just feel like Russell's journey through his faith is just fascinating. Yeah, just so I hope you guys enjoy the video.
I want to go in two directions. The first is regarding the question I opened our conversation with in relationship to Christianity. You're a very open person and your interests flash all over. And do you have any faith in the stability of what you've newly found? Or do you think that there's a risk or a possibility of your attention, given your open nature, shifting to something else? Or do you feel that you found a kind of bedrock that's qualitatively different from the sorts of orientations that you've had previously? So let's start with that.
It feels like something absolute has been encountered, which has ameliorated, mitigated, neutralized, and somehow compounded and infused something that was always latent and yet corroming within me. The self as the absolute. I want this.
Right.
Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. And the problem with the New Age,
So it's actually really interesting. He talks about this because his idea of Christianity feeling like it has allowed him to ground this desire he used to have into something that he's going to talk about. I feel the same way with essentially all my studies with human design, gene keys, and IFS. I feel like I've finally kind of found these three systems that essentially give me the language to make the impact in the world that I feel like I'm here to make. But without those languages and without those paradigms, I was spending so long trying to build my own paradigm of how to help heal myself and other people. Because ultimately I was really just trying to heal myself. And then as I was wanting to heal myself, ultimately it was so I could help heal the world, because if the world's a better place, I'm happier, my children are happier, my wife's happier, my relationship's better, less stress in my life, less stress in the world, less stress in my friendships and relationships. So like, that's why in some sense I have such a deep desire to impact the world with, you know, these kind of like, with my healing journey or in these healing modalities that I'm learning and practicing and helping people with. So it's interesting that like Russell's actually really talking about the same kind of thing that Christianity has done for him in some sense, what human design, gene keys, and IFS has done for me.
Gated, neutralized, and somehow compounded and infused something that was always latent and yet corroming within me. The self as the absolute. I want this.
Right.
Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. And the problem with the New Age, the problem with I'll have a little bit of Buddhism and I'll have a little bit of Sufism and I'll read a bit of Foucault and I'll conjure up my own little pantheon. In fact, it was you that said it to me. That if God is everything, God is anything. And I encountered that more empirically when returning to a kind of New Age festival. And I felt, what is this feeling that I'm having here, since coming to Christ in a New Age festival? And I still got the other deities adorned permanently about my body as a reminder. And what it felt like is it's false idolatry. False idolatry is predicated on a polarity between the self and the idol. Christ replaces the self. You die on the cross with him. It's the self that has to go. There is
what self exactly? How do you conceptualize the self that has to go?
The Russellness, the observer, the witness, the Russellness. By default,
I'm also wondering if it's interesting what Russell's saying, because this is actually something that we were talking about just for like half an hour ago on the stream, which was this idea of, I feel like there's two ways that I've come across amassing knowledge, wisdom, and developing your practice, or like whatever you're here to do in the world, and developing the thing that is going to allow you to have the impact on the world that you want to have, if you're here to make an impact in the world. And like one thing I was talking about is that there's like two ways to develop your practice, through study and learning and knowledge acquisition. Is like you have one way, which is pick one thing and go down that road like 10,000 to 50,000 hours. Pick like one thing, one niche thing, and just like scour that narrow tunnel, right? And just go right to the very bottom. That does not appeal to me. And I think, again, because of my study with human design gene keys, I realize that different people are built differently, and we all have a different way of impacting the world. And where I'm going with this is, so there's two ways. There's what I just said. There's the 10,000 hours to 50,000 hours of one thing. And the other option is you do like 2,500 hours, let's just say, or 5,000 hours or something in several things. And then what you lose in the depth, you make up for in the breadth. Because then what you're doing is, as he's talking about like this, amassing this pantheon, it's like you are taking all of these, because I think in some sense, there's diminishing returns as you go deeper and deeper down a single path. Because I think you can amass a lot of wisdom and knowledge within the 2,500 to 5,000 hour mark. Now at the same time, there's the, what is it? Dunning-Kruger effect, where when you know enough about something, but not a lot, you think you're more adept at it than you really are. Neil deGrasse Tyson talked about this with Terrence Howard after the Terrence Howard Joe Rogan podcast. So that's a potential problem with the approach that I tend to take of amassing a wealth of different modalities and then creating my own modality that utilizes aspects of those other ones. I think that path is a very good path to go down. If you look at Paul Chek has done that. Yeah, I think he's one of the best that I've come across, where he's a master at studying various different disciplines. And he likely goes past 5,000 hours. He probably goes 10,000 hours into several things. But yeah, like, so he's somebody, and I think that is in human design gene keys, that's the line 3 profile, which requires change. It requires trial and error, change, and interaction with a lot of different things, because it builds up a wisdom reservoir of being able to learn from all of the things it's experienced. So in some sense, they say that builds wisdom, where the going down the single path, the 10,000 to 50,000 hours, builds competence and maybe like knowledge, like specific niche knowledge, but definitely competence in a specific thing. But then again, the other approach, the amassing all of these different things and combining them, that also creates competence, but in a different way, because then it's up to you to know how to combine them. But if you're not adept enough at combining them, I think Russell's correct in that you don't have any mastery or expertise, knowledge in any of those fields. But yeah, I kind of like, with me, I see my path as picking 3 or 4 systems. Like, again, it's like human design, gene keys, IFS, and then I probably in the future want to get into martial arts, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and Tai Chi. Then I would have like 5 things. And so if one person does one thing for 50,000 hours, I think I would like at the end of my life to have 5 knowledge paths or practices and then do 10,000 hours into each one, and then develop a system that incorporates all of them in a potent way, because all of them have slightly different focuses. Like Tai Chi is very physical. It's actually, Tai Chi is a very beautiful balance of the mind and the physicality, the body, because it's a physical practice, but it's also a mental practice. And then you have Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, which is again, both mental and physical, but highly physical. And then you have Human Design and Gene Keys and IFS, which are very mental, emotional systems, especially IFS. It's extremely emotional. And then Human Design and Gene Keys are primarily mental. But then as you develop competence in the understanding the mentality of those systems and understanding how they work, they lead to emotional breakthroughs in your life. And then after you have enough emotional breakthroughs, they actually lead to physical, practical changes in your life. So all these end up leading to a physical change in your life. But again, like the way I see it, I think you can have an incredible impact by developing expertise in several different fields that harmonize with each other really well. Because again, the power of harmony, right? It's like, even in music, like harmony has power and potency. Like, especially you get like, in, some genres of music, vocal harmonies, guitar harmonies, especially if you're listening to like metal music and you have these incredible lead guitar melodies and harmonies. And then you have symphonies that are all harmonies, right? Like a symphony is, again, based on this approach of taking several different ingredients and incorporating them together, right? Instead of just like, you could have a symphony, or you could have this wouldn't even be a symphony, I don't think. But imagine if you just got 50 trombone players or 50 violin players. It wouldn't have the same impact as when you have the violins and the cellos and the guitars and the drums, like in the vocals and the choirs, right? So I think like with these things, there is a lot of incredible ways to go about achieving mastery and competence in whatever you're here to do in your life. But I absolutely get what Russell's talking about, where it's like there is a power in taking one thing and going to the very bottom of the well with it and being one of the world's leaders or the world's experts at that one thing. That does have its own potency and power, but let's get back into this.
You die on the cross with him. It's the self that has to go. There is
what self exactly? How do you conceptualize the self that has to go?
The Russellness, the observer, the witness, the Russellness. By default, inadvertently, I'm always in the service of the centrifugal force around which urges, projections, reflections, the intellect, the memory, they all, like you once said when talking about like the word witch might have a bunch of associated words like cat and cauldron and all that. I got Russell and Russell's memories and projections. I got this sort of loose sense of a continuum of self. Now, it was very deliberate.
And that center should be replaced.
Yes, his centre before he was right, and we nearly touched upon this before, because W.B. Yeats was right. The centre cannot hold, and that's what we're experiencing with the emergence of the Hydra. The sovereign is unfolding. The seed is cracking open. The wheat is being born. It's being born out now. The thing is before, with the narcissism, me being a devotee of the other culture, a devotee of the false idolatry, I worshipped self. Now, at first it felt like the pilgrimage was very sort of meekly undertaken, for I was not a robust child athlete, nor was I a high school heartthrob. I was a sort of a broken and wounded little trickster in the world. And when I became empowered at puberty and attractive and potent and then famous, and it all was, I felt, evolving or growing, but one of my teachers would say inflating. It was inflating. Right. Like, it's difficult. If you've felt pretty worthless your whole life and all of a sudden there's a culture queuing up to give you sort of accolades and pat you on the back, and there's a sort of an endless cortege of fellatio suddenly available, it's difficult not to think that you might not be rather magnificent. Now, the reason I as a sort of a counterweight to the feelings of inferiority, I would have been I always knew something about Jesus. I knew something about Jesus, but my odd contemporary translation of that was, I want to be him. I want to be the savior. I want to be in direct commune with God. I want to lead. I want to be empowered. And then when the desolation came, the desolation and despair, when the grail came again, not like the adolescent.
Yes, interesting. I can actually relate to that a lot. I'm still at, and I don't know when this stage will pass, but I definitely still feel like I think it's just, you know, being 29, the age I'm at, but I definitely still feel this like burning passion in me, this fire in me to like, you know, fulfill my potential, to make an impact in the world, like all these things. Like even, you know, again, as I've shared, like in Human Design Gene Keys, I'm here to make an impact. But I think it's like, it's your attachment to that impact. Is like in youth, in your 20s, when you're younger, your ego wants to make the impact. It's like you want to make the impact. You want impact to be made, and you want to be the one making it. And I think naturally what will likely happen in my life as I continue to grow, mature, and evolve, as we all do, I will likely get to a point where I still have a deep passion and yearning for impact, but potentially I will care less about the fact that maybe I'm making the impact. Like maybe I invest in a company that's going to make an impact, or maybe I donate to a charity that's going to, like, you know what I mean? It's like, so far, it's like, I want to be the one to make the impact. You even see it, like, you know, the Anton Network, right? The Anton Show, the Anton Analysis. A lot of it is quite, in a lot of ways, partially narcissistic and self-obsessed. Partially that is because it has to be, because I literally learned the lesson the wrong way, where I had a company, Arc Vision Media, and then actually it turns out Jordan Peterson ended up coming out with Arc Vision, I think a year or two ago. So he pretty much literally took my company idea. And like, I just kind of like lost it, because I'll never be able to compete with using that name with him. Right. And so it kind of like taught me, okay, you know, what do I have that can't be taken from me? And that in some sense is my name. And I know there's other Antons in the world, so there's a possibility someone else can create the Anton Network too. But yeah, I'm hoping I end up being the most successful in the world at utilizing that name. But yeah, my point with all of this is like, I can definitely relate to Russell Brand, and just that drive to like make something of yourself. And a lot of the time it does definitely come from that insecurity. In my case, it was, you know, seeking my dad's approval, and deep down, I still am seeking his approval. But also in Human Design Gene Keys, one of the prime archetypes I have is the archetype of essentially a transformational path from self-obsession into being, which is just relaxing. So it's like in the shadow, I'm self-obsessed, you know, trying to figure out who I am, what I'm here to do, and have my own unique impact on the world. And there's going to be a time where that just breaks in me. It just, you know, essentially I get so lost trying to find myself that there's something in me that just snaps open. And then it's just this calming thing where it's like, hey, like, you don't have to do anything. Like, you can just relax. Like, you're enough by you are, you're worthy of being loved. Like, I'm not fully there yet, but I know once I am, that those self-obsessive tendencies I have will start to get loosen their grip on me, if that makes sense, you know? And lastly, the last thing I just want to say about this idea of giving up the self to Christ, I think he said, or to a higher power, let's say. I'm wondering about the possibility of spiritual bypassing and developing a spiritual ego. But who knows? Maybe he has a path forward that he can let go of his ego in a real way. But I think there's a huge potential shadow that dawns in spiritual circles. I think the huge shadow of spirituality is people having their ego deaths, like doing ayahuasca, doing psilocybin, doing DMT. Like, you know, I've done many of these things. And like MGK just went on Logan Paul's podcast, or like in the last several months, and he's like, hey, like I did ayahuasca and now I don't have an ego anymore. And I'm like, oh, okay, you just had an ego death, but he doesn't realize that their life is a journey of several ego deaths, and that one part of his ego died, but he still has his ego. But because that part of it died, he thinks that that was the only part of his ego. And now he thinks that he's kind of like enlightened or something. Right. And so I'm wondering if the same thing is happening potentially with Russell, and maybe not, where part of his ego's died, part of it, but he's still definitely, you know, he definitely still has an ego for sure. Like you can even tell in the way he's speaking right now, he has an ego. The passion, the charisma, I could be wrong, but it definitely, that level of passion and charisma, I think that's the presence of ego still. But I think it's just as you develop spiritually, your ego can become potentially more and more insidious in its way of allowing partial deaths and then pretending like it is now transcended itself. But yeah, let's get back into this.
Adolescent despair, when you know you've got a whole life and a bunch of hormones about to hit you and elevate you. Middle age desolation and decimation, desecration, despair, despondency. When that incursion came, when those arrows landed, there was a clarification took place amidst the catastrophic white noise and haze was not just the cross, but the solitary figure, fully man, fully God, to whom we must bow down. Now, they do all they can in the United Kingdom to make astringent, anodyne and banal the figure of Christ, the TV shows, the ceremonies and sermons themselves, with some notable exceptions. I've had some brilliant English Christian teachers, J. John, Father Dave, although he's just become a bishop and he's certainly not a Catholic minister, Father Julian at Brompton, loads of people out of the UK. So I'm not being dismissive in the widest sense. I'm just saying sort of culturally, the way that Christianity is presented is somewhat mundane. And then over in this country, the United States, where we are now, sometimes they can give it so much carnivore that it can seem too sequined, glistening and ridiculous. But somewhere within all of us is that he's there. He is there.
And then also just quickly about that, I think in America, because there's so much like carnival to the Christianity as well, I think that style of Christianity can be very prone to preaching. I think the shadow of that style of Christianity is the really, really preachy element of it. But anyway, let's get back into it.
Listening and ridiculous, but somewhere within all of us is that he's there. He is there, for that was his gift. He died that we may know eternal life and we may be redeemed of our sins, and he bequeathed upon us the Holy Spirit. Now, what I felt was, again, it wasn't sort of flash bang wallop. The moment of the baptism was powerful. The moment of sort of the slowly separating fugue. And as I say, the clarification and emergence of the face of Christ was very real. And I knew what the compromise was. If there is a Jesus, you're not Jesus. You are not Jesus. You are not at the center, and neither is anybody else. He is firstborn among the dead. And the rest of us, we're all lined up before the throne as sinners. The people that have tried to destroy me, the people that hate me, the people that I've wronged, the people that I've sinned against, all of us, just one congregation before him. My cherished and prized individuality, sometimes that cast me so low, worthless, disgusting, worse than everybody else, that sometimes self-reification and self-deification, I am so spectacular, I am so marvelous.
And that's actually, they're one and the same, because and I know that personally, I also go back and forth between extreme self-aggrandizement, where I think like, you know, I'll just feel this potential in me. I'll be like, wow, I could like change the world. And then, you know, maybe 2 weeks later, I'm in a low kind of emotional mode, you know, a lot of trauma's coming up, a lot of challenges, or maybe I'm being triggered. And then in that place, I'm just like, oh man, I'm nothing. Like, and that place is wild. It's like, how could, sometimes if it gets really intense, like sometimes it'll be like, how could anyone even love me? Like I have so many challenges. I have like insecurities, inadequacies, insecurities with aspects of my appearance or personality, like all these things. So I totally get what Russell's coming from, but I think that's exactly it. Anytime you still have trauma and you still have pain and you still have insecurity, it is going to flip-flop back between an overinflated sense of self and a worthless sense of self. And then it's only once you actually love yourself that you have neither. Because once you actually love yourself, you don't need to inflate yourself to compensate for how low you feel at other times. And then I think a lot of the time, the compensation and the inflation is not even genuine. It's almost like there's a part of you behind the scenes that's inflating you because it knows it has to. And it's like hiding the fact that it's a part of you inflating you from the other parts of you. And that's where you get into IFS, internal family systems, where they talk about how we have different parts of ourselves within our psyche, that we're not a unified mind. We're not a unified personality. We actually have legitimate multiple personalities within ourselves. Inner children, inner protectors, inner firefighters, inner managers, inner critic, like all these kind of things. So again, I can absolutely relate to Russell here.
People that I've wronged, the people that I've sinned against, all of us, just one congregation before him. My cherished and prized individuality, sometimes that cast me so low, worthless, disgusting, worse than everybody else. There's sometimes self-reification and self-deification. I am so spectacular. I am so marvelous. All of it now just sort of eased into, I am as he made me. I am as he would have me. Now, I don't know that I might know, it'll be for someone as you say, open, peripatetic, intellectually.
And actually, that's exactly also what I like about human design gene keys, is that there's so many parallels between what Russell is gaining from Christianity and what I've gained from human design gene keys, because Christianity gives him a role to play. It gives him he might call it like it takes away his sense of self, but it also gives him another role. It maybe takes away his sense of importance, but it gives him a sense of, this is how you be a good person, right? And then it's like, and I think a lot of the time, again, the shadow, and I don't know if this is happening to Russell, but this will happen to everyone who goes down any of these paths. Like any of these paths is, there will be that thing where like, oh, okay, I've received my new role. It's like you've given up a role that has caused you pain, and now you've jumped into a new role, and you've allowed it to now be the confining box. And I even went through that with human design and gene keys, where I looked at my profile and I went, oh, that's me. And it felt really safe at first. It felt comfortable because finally I was something. I wasn't needing to prove myself. I wasn't needing to find myself, because now I had this system that told me what my gifts, challenges, purpose, and reason for existing was. And that was again a box. And then I started to feel confined by that. And then I had to go, okay, human design gene keys, they're not going to tell me who I am, but they can simply be a tool that gives me ways of contemplating myself. I don't see it anymore as they're telling me who I am, but they're just, in some sense, maybe they're showing me like storylines I'm here to play out. And it just so happens that all of the storylines they're telling me strongly resonate with the core of my being. And they've been storylines I've been trying to play out. And when I actually see it now, I've been in the process of playing out those storylines my entire life, ever since I was a kid. But now I have the language, I have the map that's showing me like, oh, all those impulses in me, oh, that's the outlet. That's what they're actually trying to culminate in. So again, it's just fascinating how similar what Russell's getting out of Christianity and what I'm getting out of my studies.
Disgusting, worse than everybody else. There's sometimes self-reification and self-deification. I am so spectacular. I am so marvelous. All of it now just sort of eased into, I am as he made me. I am as he would have me. Now, I don't know that I might know, it'll be for someone as you say, open, peripatetic, intellectually and capricious as I have sometimes been, perhaps it would seem audacious to claim that I belong to him, but that I surrender surrender to you as my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, I serve you.
Yeah, well, it's something you want to do with care, that's for sure.
So surely. But to let you know that the ego's still in here, I may have given up wanting to be Jesus Christ, but I'm going to give as best a shot as I can give at being Paul. That's I'll come down from Jesus.
I like how you missed that.
Oh no, sorry, Lord. Sorry, Lord. Paul's just a man like us. Paul's just a man like us. Acts is full of men like us. Ephesians, written by a man like us. Galatians, a man like us. And now, amidst these tectonic shifts and new and emerging kings and new paradigms and new language, here he is, Christ. You know, so let's
come
and have a drink, please, because that was real life as well.
All right, let's finish it there. But yeah, that was really interesting. Again, just like, I'm going to listen to the rest of this, but it just, in so many ways, it just feels like, as I shared a few times there, I definitely feel like I relate super strongly to Russell's journey. In a lot of ways, it feels like it echoes my own. And I don't even know how old Russell Brand is, actually. He is, oh my God, he's 49. I thought he was like 42. Okay, so he's, wow. Yeah, he's a lot older than I thought. So yeah, like he has 20 years on me, but yeah, it's really interesting. I definitely feel like I really relate to his journey. But yeah, what do you think about that? So a couple things. What do you think about the idea of New Age that Russell talked about, and the idea that I talked about like, what do you think? Do you think there's a correct path in achieving competence in whatever you feel like you're here to do in the world? Do you feel like it is better to pick one niche, one lane, go, 50,000 hours over the course of your life into it and master that? Or are you more someone that feels more drawn to, change and trying new things in life? Because again, like if you're the adventurous type, good luck trying to, like, I'm very adventurous. I'm always drawn to new things. And that is my life and path, and my life path is to constantly grow, change, and evolve. And so for me, like, there's always new horizons, and there's always cool things where I'm like, oh, I know I'm going to get to that one day. So for me, I feel like both paths are absolutely viable. I think both get you to the same place. I just think they reach different plateaus at different times. I think that the broad approach is most dangerous at the beginning, because it can sometimes give you the false sense with the Dunning-Kruger effect that you know more than you really know. But I think in the long run, it plays itself out very nicely. And I think it balances itself out. As you develop more of those, you get into the 2,500 hours into each subject, the 5,000 hours, the 10,000 hours. And then you start to take those 5,000, 10,000 hours and combine those. I think you can create incredibly potent vehicles for impacting the world. And especially, like life coaching and mentorship and the stuff that I feel like I'm drawn to. So, yeah, what do you think about that? And also let me know with yourself, what do you as a human being feel more drawn to? Are you more like the niche expert, or the adventurous explorer of different horizons? And, also, if you guys enjoyed this video and you want to help me with the YouTube algorithm, definitely like this video. And like I said with the comments are super helpful. And also, if you feel like someone would enjoy this video and get something out of it and maybe resonate with me or resonate with Russell, and yeah, feel free to share this with a friend or family member or something. That definitely helps the most. Just natural, organic word of mouth marketing is definitely very helpful. So thank you to everyone who chooses to do that. And a little bit about the channel, just for you guys to know. So this is the Anton Network, and we have two main shows on it. The Anton Analysis, which is this, where I break down and discuss themes related to current events, culture, and music, and, different artistic mediums. Pretty much like the catchphrase is exploring the human condition through culture. And then I have the Anton Show, which is my podcast, which is exploring the human condition through conversation. So it's kind of a similar thing, but it's a dialogue rather than, I guess this is still kind of a little bit of a dialogue. I just like having dialogues with people. I like I like having my mind jogged and then coming out with my reactions to things, my natural reactions and my responses. So if you like the sound of that, definitely subscribe. A new piece of content comes out every single week. And then lastly, links down below if you guys are interested in exclusive content and joining our membership platform and social media and a whole bunch more. And that's it. So I'll see all of you in the next one. I love you guys.